iPhone 13 on us for every customer. Current, new, everyone. To show the love.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Thursday, June 16th, 2022. Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Missouri City, Texas, just outside of Houston, Texas, the birthplace, Texas, if you will, of Juneteenth. This is Juneteenth week, and I'll be speaking here for the Missouri City Celebration in about 90 minutes. But coming up today on today's show, the Black Star Network, the January 6th Committee continues their work showing how Donald Trump put lots of pressure on his Vice President Mike Pence to overthrow the election. We'll tell you about that. Also, FEMA, how are they discriminating against African Americans when it comes to disaster assistance, and how are they helping white homeowners? We'll talk to a ProPublica reporter, an amazing story. You don't want to miss that. And so lots of news we're covering today, lots more we're going to break down, including you'll hear from another UNCF president talking about how he is making a difference at Talladega in Alabama. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Type your name in. I'll type it in. So, folks, whenever there is a disaster in the United States, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, they are the ones who come to the rescue. I am here broadcasting in Texas, in Houston. I've lived through 3 different hurricanes, flooding, you name it, these things have happened. And so FEMA is the federal agency that is often called. But who are they actually assisting? There's this amazing story that we saw today where Politico, they've been detailing how FEMA has really helped white homeowners, as opposed in how they were really dealing with a racial disparity and who they have been helping. Thomas Frank is a reporter. He's been working on these stories. It's really amazing. First of all, Thomas, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I read this story and it really jumped out at me, again, showing this racial disparity. We remember what took place in New Orleans when it came to Hurricane Katrina. Again, like I say, I'm from Houston. I've numerous hurricanes, talking about tornadoes. And so what did your reporting show, this disparity, and what jumped out at you?
So what the reporting showed, I looked at how has FEMA has given out about $2 billion over the past 30 years to homeowners to take steps to basically save their houses from being flooded. And what they end up doing is they do these projects where they elevate the home. They basically build a new foundation, lift it up 5 feet, 10 feet, so that you're above the flood level. And if you can get one of these grants from FEMA to do that, it's a great deal because your home is safe from flooding, your property value goes up. and the flood insurance premiums that you pay go way down. What I found, I looked at what communities were getting the money, and in most states, in almost every state, the money is going overwhelmingly to communities that are either white or rich, meaning their median household income is at least $100,000 a year, which is pretty rich. And the reason for that, it's not that FEMA sets out or Congress sets out to say, well, we're just going to give this money to rich people and white people. But what happens is that in order to get one of these grants from FEMA, and we're talking about $200,000, $300,000 that FEMA just gives you to hire a contractor to improve your home. In order to get one of these grants, you, a homeowner, first of all, you have to own your home. And secondly, you've got to contribute roughly $50,000 on your own. So if you take those two preconditions and look at them and compare to broad racial and ethnic patterns in the country, you end up with a very discriminatory program. In other words, white people are roughly twice as likely to own the home they live in as black people are. And when you look at just the amount of household wealth that white households have compared to black households, it's about 8 times as much. It's about $180,000 versus like $25,000. So when you look at who can actually have access to this money, in other words, who can afford to get money from FEMA, it's going to be people who have money and who own their homes. And that is overwhelmingly people who are affluent and people who are white. So it ends up being a discriminatory system.
Now that is what is amazing in terms of how you laid that out. And we often talk about the racial disparities in this country and how, on the surface, people will say, well, we don't see systemic racism. But when you're talking about who can afford it, well, if you don't have the discretionary income, then you can't actually do it. And then, of course, when you talk about those individuals who don't own homes, but they're renting a home or they're actually renting an apartment, they're screwed. And so with this reporting, what did FEMA say? Have you had any political leaders looking at this saying, hey, we should be making some type of adjustments to deal with this?
So what FEMA says, in short, is you're right. FEMA, since President Biden took office, has been doing a very sort of top-to-bottom review of how all of its programs, and FEMA has a lot of programs, how they are not equitable. And FEMA has acknowledged that a lot of the programs they have, the one I just described, and also just the emergency aid that they give after a disaster, have these built-in sort of funding mechanisms that aren't intentionally discriminatory, but they end up being discriminatory. And so FEMA has actually, to FEMA's credit, taken some steps in the last year to make it easier for African Americans, Hispanics, low-income homeowners, renters, and so on and so forth to get access to some of their programs, but not all of their programs. So FEMA basically says, yes, you're right, and we are working on it. There are a few leaders in Congress, Benny Thompson of Mississippi, who is now on TV as the chairman of the January 6th committee, and he's also chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. And he has probably more than anyone in the House, at least, been really paying attention to this issue. And Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, also has been working on legislation to try to address some of these issues.
Wow. Well, first of all, we appreciate the reporting that y'all have done on this issue. And again, this is why journalism matters, because for on the surface, people would think this is no big deal. But trust me, when it comes to trying to keep your home, this is a huge deal. Tom Frank, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward
Thanks
to
for having me.
More of these stories. Yeah, it's a great series that y'all are doing, because it's not just this story, several others dealing with FEMA. So I encourage everybody to go to Politico.com to check these stories out. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
I want to bring my panel right now. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Larry Walker, Assistant Professor, University of Central Florida. And Reese Colbert, founder of Black Women Views. Glad to have all three of y'all here. You heard him say right there, Reese, that FEMA says that, well, this is not it turns out to be discriminatory. And this is the thing that when you hear largely white conservatives say that, oh, no systemic racism, well, this is a perfect example of system and discrimination and racism. Is called systemic racism. This is a perfect example.
Exactly, it really is. And the intent is irrelevant when you talk about the impact. And at the end of the day, who decides that white homes or affluent white homes, those folks deserve to stay in their $1 million mansions on flood-prone lands and get these massive government bailouts? I thought Republicans were against government handouts and bailouts. Meanwhile, lower income or disadvantaged communities just flounder in these flood-prone conditions. The reality is that climate change is going to continue to endanger homes in many areas. And not only does it cause danger to those homes, it displaces people, but it also just causes massive premium increases, even for people who can afford to stay in their homes or fix them. And so I'm encouraged to hear that at least the Biden-Harris administration is evaluating the equity of it, as well as the work that's being done in Congress. But if the report is to be believed, it seems like this isn't even really the most efficient way of stemming the impacts of climate change in these communities by going house by house. There are other initiatives that are falling by the wayside because maybe they don't have the rich consultants that some of these homeowners do to compete for these very competitive grants. So I think this is a really important issue to bring to the forefront, and hopefully there will be some reforms that will bring some more equity to the system. But the last thing I will say is it does seem more than any other administration that when the Biden-Harris administration is made aware of these kinds of things, that they do move to resolve them or make some changes, as opposed to other ones who would just, poo-poo the inequities or, not even address it at all.
Greg Carr, when you look at this particular chart that lays out these 12 states, mighty white. So let's see, Kentucky, okay? Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul's state, got the most money. Then you go West Virginia, Ohio, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Oregon, Florida, New York, Washington, Georgia. So, if people want to understand why you also have a racial disparity, a wealth disparity in this country, this is a perfect example.
It is. And love to the Missouri City fam. I hope my sister and them come by and see you, man. You in Juneteenth territory, brother. Also National Youth Day, by the way, in South Africa. This is the anniversary of the Soweto uprising in 1976. Those two dates will always be linked for us as African people. It's interesting, Roland, as you say, a remarkable series of articles by Thomas Frank and his colleagues. Deep down in that article, though, I think the lead is kind of buried at the local level and state level. So when you're looking at Virginia, you're looking at North Carolina, when the states allocate money to pick up the part that the feds don't pick up, then you do see folks be able to get some relief. Now, that speaks to the importance of getting involved in politics. But that's what allows black and brown people and poor people to get involved in the game. The other thing, interestingly enough, it seems to me, is that, as Reese says, folks that can hire consultants, grant writers. We saw that most of that money in Kentucky went to a suburb, Prospect, Kentucky, in Louisville. So these rich white folk have that. But here's the thing also that I found interesting in the article that we read. When you look at how this money is allocated and the decisions that are being made, when you look at Bridgeport, Connecticut, for example, that city council voted to build a seawall, to do the kind of thing Reese is talking about, protect the group. You do that with tunnels. You do that by strengthening infrastructure. What happened? These white homeowners went and put pressure on the city council to redistribute the money that they had to fix their houses. So they can say it was unintentional, but at some point, whiteness rears its head. They had allocated that money in Bridgeport to help everybody. And then white boys went down there and said, damn, everybody, I want my house to be moved.
And to that,
the squeaky wheel gets
Larry,
the cheese, though.
Again, well, it was absolutely, but this is the perfect example, Larry, of when we're always talking about how the election is the end of one process, but after it's over, it's the beginning of another. This is why we are always encouraging people how we've got to stay involved. We've got to be present. We've got to be there pushing our agenda forward because this is how we get screwed. This is how we get left out of the economic mix.
Yeah, Roland, that's a good point. And in relation to elections, the fight for fairness as it relates to Black people never ends. It's ongoing. Is there another thing I want to kind of highlight that's important in relation to this story? First of all, I give Politico credit for this is a really important story, but also how the priorities can shift from administration to administration. This is the Trump administration. This issue with FEMA, they wouldn't do anything about it. Let's be frank. I think another key point is someone to go something Reese talked about in climate change. It's clear it's a racial justice issue. And I don't think when we talk about climate change, we frame it in that way. And I think we should be doing more of that because it's a racial justice issue. I think the other thing is really important in terms of, we talk about Black wealth. And we know that in terms of housing discrimination, in terms of Black people will consistently deal with housing discrimination, whether refinancing, trying to buy a home, et cetera. And that exacerbates that wealth gap. So Black folks can't get a home, and they're forced to, rent, et cetera. And then even if they do buy a house, they may try to refinance. It may not, in terms of how the kind of equity they need. So it's a constant struggle to fight against the powers that be. The other thing about this particular issue as it relates to FEMA, and I found this in my experience in working in federal government, is that racism is baked into every initiative system you can possibly think about. And that's why when I originally said that the fight for this is ongoing, because FEMA probably has who knows how many programs like this. And you can look at some of the other federal agencies, you will find consistently that there are these kinds of challenges that create problems for Black people that otherwise shouldn't be there if not for systemic racism.
Well, look, these are the type of stories that are important, that don't get the kind of attention that's necessary. When I saw this, I said, look, it's one of the things that we have to talk about because, as Reese said, as Greg has said, as Larry said, depending upon who is in power, that sort of dictates what then happens. And so we have to be far more active. And I simply cannot stress enough to everybody who is listening. When you heard me, call out our fraternities and sororities and how folks should be picking months where they are showing up en masse to the school board, to the city council, to the county commissioners court, the state legislature, because that's where policy is made. That's what dollars are being doled out. Sure, look, I cover city council, I cover county government, and some people say, you know what, these city zoning, commissions, these different committees, they're boring. But guess what happens? That's where changes are made, and too often we're being left out. And what ends up happening, and again, folks, I've covered this my entire life. My first job at the Austin American Statesman was in South Neighbors reporter, then became the county government reporter, then I became the city hall reporter in Fort Worth. Oftentimes, when African Americans are showing up at city hall or county government or the school board, it is when we are on the defensive, when we are protesting something that we heard about, and all of a sudden it then becomes, a big issue. I can tell you, Greg, numerous times I would sit there and I would see major pieces being passed, economic pieces being passed, and there were no Black people who were in the audience. There was no one testifying before. You might have one or two who was doing it. And so this is, so we have got to understand that we can't always be in this reactive mode. We've got to sometimes go on the offensive and protect our economic investment when it comes to who we put in office. And then people say, well, we put them in, they should be knowing what to do, what's right down there. Well, you said it. They put pressure on that city council, and they listen to those who put pressure on them. We've got to be there as well. And I know folks in the chat right now saying, oh, man, we busy, we got jobs. But guess what? That's the only way it gets done. This is the reality of this republic that we live in.
That's right. That's right, Roland. In fact, brother, I just saw a documentary. Husband and wife couple did a major documentary on the Sea Islands in South Carolina. And near the end, they highlight these air property sales that take place. And the folks at Penn Center in South Carolina come to these air property sales and basically beg these developers not to bid on these properties. The folks who own the properties, and it could be family disputes or what, for whatever reasons, they get in a situation where they're back payment on taxes or whatever, they try to come together and buy these properties at auction. And it was heartbreaking to watch sale after sale get taken off the board from these developers. Don't give a damn about anybody around them. But here's the lesson, I think. Here it ties into what you just raised. They are successful at times in forestalling these sales, but it requires organization, and it requires everybody who has a skill working together. If everybody does a little, nobody has to do a lot. If you don't have time to come to the city council and testify, fine. But if you're an accountant, if you're somebody who knows about taxes and property, if you are a grant writer, then that's your role. Somebody else has time to come. Well, you prepare them with the testimony for city council. This is how we've gained political power over the years. We don't win every battle, but if you're not there at all, you win no battle. As old folks say, 85%, 90% of life is just showing up. We have to stay involved in the process.
And Reese, I see people making comments and they say, "Man, you keep talking about this stuff," because I lived it. My parents were co-founders of our neighborhood civic club. I remember being 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 years old and traveling down to city council meetings and going to committee hearings and going to the state capitol. I remember going to those town halls. So I saw this stuff when I was 10, 11, and 12. I remember working elections and out there, handing out stuff, folks who were running. And so we are more impacted by what happens locally than actually what happens in Washington, D.C. Yet we have so much of our energy on what's happening in Washington, D.C. as opposed to what is happening right in front of us.
Absolutely. And I'm living it right now because my husband is a commissioner in our town. He's in local government. He is the closest, he's the closest body of government that we have to the people that live next door, down the street. And it's actually just pretty extraordinary to see how little engagement there is in our community with our town, even though they're super accessible. And who the people who are super engaged? The racist white folks, the town Karens who email the commissioners, who rip them apart every time you turn around, they own every call, and hey, that's their prerogative to advance their agenda. But I said it wrong earlier, but the squeaky mouse gets the cheese, if that's the right thing. Y'all can correct me. The bottom line is there are resources that can be given or taken away. There are different priorities that can be set or not set, depending on who is involved and who is showing up at their local government, whether it's the town, the city, the county, whatever it is. You can be involved. And the last thing I'll say is we have a program in our town where people can qualify for mortgage assistance and water bill assistance. And there are statistics that show that a certain number, I want to say 20-something% of our town are behind months on their water bill. And there is money in our budget for them. But the problem is that people are not taking advantage. And it's not a result of the commission not reaching out to people. They've done releases, they've sent out mailings, they've had social media, and nobody has taken advantage of it. And so when you're not even taking advantage of free money when you need it, you're not voting, you're not going to town councils, I don't want to hear a goddamn thing from your mouth about anything that's happening 5, 6, 7, 8 steps above your day-to-day life.
As I always say, Larry, we cannot be reactive. We have to be far more proactive if we're trying to get changes for our various communities.
That's a great point. And you listen to Reese and talk about her husband being a commissioner. Local, you talked about it, all politics is local. So it's really important, Reese talked about the Karens and I guess the Toms too. So, listen, when there are resources out there and there are problems, people, commissioners or, mayors, et cetera, county commissioners, they listen to the folks who are raising the points. So, but it is critically important in terms, like you said, Roland earlier, in terms of Black folks, we have to be actively engaged. It has to start at the local level. And we have to constantly put pressure on folks, because if you're reactionary, and like you said, if you just show up at these, school board meetings, et cetera, and you're just, raising all kinds of hell, when the issue is finally being addressed, being voted on that day, you're already $5 short. You need to make sure you're consistently engaged. You attend if the meetings are bi-weekly or monthly. And like I said, we need to collaborate. Folks, if you can't make it, then you go this week, I'll go next week. Or you go this month, I'll go the following month. But we have to make sure we collaborate and utilize our resources collectively to make sure we continue to apply pressure.
Indeed. All right, folks, got to go to break. We come back. We'll talk about today's January 6th committee hearing, more nonsense. And is this committee finally going to get some guts and call out Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas? Yeah, one of the folks who've tried to overthrow this country, and her husband is one of 9 Supreme Court justices. We'll discuss that next on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasted live from Missouri City, Texas, from their Juneteenth celebration on the Black Star Network.
Verizon just gave us all a brand new iPhone 13.
We've been customers for years. I thought new phones were for new customers. We got iPhone 13s too, switched to Verizon 2 minutes ago.
Ours were busted, and we still got a shiny new one.
Check it out. So wait, everybody gets the same great deal?
I think that's the point.
iPhone 13 on us for every customer. Current, new, everyone. On any unlimited plan, starting at just $35. All on the network more people rely on.
On the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking all things mental health and how helping others can help you. We all have moments where we have struggles, and on this week's show, our guests demonstrate how helping others can also help you. Why you should never stop giving and serving others on a next A Balanced Life here on Black Star Network.
Love our new Alexa.
It's a Buick.
Yeah, Alexa.
Buick.
Alexa.
It's a Buick.
It's an Alexa. It's a Buick. It's an Alexa. Coach, that's a Buick. That's an Alexa.
The Buick Enclave with available Alexa built-in.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
How about sushi?
I just had sushi for lunch yesterday.
How about tacos?
Automatic emergency braking, one of 6 advanced safety features standard on every 2022 Chevy Equinox. Find new technology. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
What's up, y'all? I'm Will Packer.
Everybody, it's your man, Fred Hammond.
Hi, my name is Brescia Webb, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Ow. Well, I like a nice filter usually, but we can be unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Missouri City, Texas. I am here for the Juneteenth celebration, and so the meet and greet is starting right now. So then, of course, I'll be going in for the speech. In the nation's capital, the January 6th committee continues their work showing America how these folks have been trying to overthrow this country. Man, Congressman Benny Thompson laid out the evidence, and it is damning.
This is almost no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president. No idea more un-American. I agree with that, which is unusual because former Vice President Mike Pence and I don't agree on much. These are his words, spoken a few months ago about Donald Trump's attempt to pressure the former vice president, pressure him into going along with an unlawful and unconstitutional scheme to overturn the 2020 election and give Donald Trump a second term in office that he did not win. Today, the Select Committee is going to reveal the details of that pressure campaign. But what does the Vice President of the United States even have to do with a presidential election? The Constitution says that the Vice President of the United States oversees the process of counting the Electoral College votes, a process that took place on January 6, 2021. Donald Trump wanted Mike Pence to do something no other vice president has ever done. The former president wanted Pence to reject the votes and either declare Trump the winner or send the votes back to the states to be counted again.
All right, folks. Now, Benny Thompson also addressed this issue of Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. It has been revealed that she was emailing with John Eastman. He is the Trump attorney at the center of all of this, who literally was putting together the legal strategy to overthrow the government by overturning the election. This is what Thompson said.
Ginny Thomas said that she would happily, that she's looking forward to clearing up the record and talking with you guys.
Beg pardon?
Ginny Thomas basically said that she would be looking forward to clearing up the record and talking with you guys. I know you said it's time to talk to her.
So when did she say this?
During the hearing, while you guys were in there.
I haven't heard it.
But she did. So when you hear that she says that.
What concerns do you have about Ginny Thomas's role in her communications with John Eastman?
Well, look, we have sent Ms. Thomas a letter asking us to come and talk to the committee. If what you say is okay.
You've sent it already?
Wait, listen to me. What you said, if she responded while the hearing was going on, that she wants to come, we look forward to her coming.
Public testimony. But I just want to make no, but I just want to make sure you already sent the letter.
Reese, what the hell is the reluctance to call this woman? We know that she had reached out to numerous Arizona legislators. We now know, based upon John Eastman's emails, that she was dealing with him. Why are these people scared to go? I don't care if she's married to a Supreme Court justice. And here's the other deal. When the Supreme Court voted, when it came to Trump having to release his papers, who was the one person who said that, you know what, doesn't really have to? It was Clarence Thomas. What the hell are these people doing?
Yeah, you know, okay, let me say this. Shout out to Congressman Benny Thompson. I mean, he's doing, he's doing the elder statesman role. He's trying to be as apolitical as possible. But, bruh, come on. This could be the fireworks that y'all looking for. To be honest, I didn't know that the hearing was today until I got the email about the topics, and I was like, oh shit, that was today. And so, let her crazy ass come over there and make a fool of herself and get some headlines, get some viral clips, and show the level that there was a pressure on people across the country to try to overturn the election results. I think that would be a really good hearing to have, a public one. So I don't really get the way he's, dilly-dallying and him and hawing about the stuff, except for the fact that I think he's trying to make it seem like add gravitas to the situation and being apolitical. But the thing is politicized. Okay, so let's just dispense of that. But I do want to talk too about Mike Pence, and I have to say, I'll be remiss if I didn't say that Mike Pence still ain't shit. Yes, he resisted the pressure, but it was illegal for him to do what they were telling him to do. So he just resisted the pressure of ending up in jail, okay? And it really doesn't hurt him too bad if he didn't get reelected under Trump's crazy ass, because then he could go ahead and run for president 2024 if he decides to do that. We know he was dead ass broke, couch surfing and shit after he, was done being vice president. So he wanted to go ahead, probably make make a little bit of coin, being the ex-vice president, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm still not gonna give any Republicans any cookies for following the law and doing the bare minimum. But yeah, back to Ginny. She definitely needs to be up there. Clarence Thomas is corrupt as hell, but I always go back to the same thing. Who gonna check him, boo? She's done probably several illegal things, but who's going to check her? It don't look like anybody's going to do it just yet, but we shall see.
Here's the thing that bothers me, Larry. I had some people who were in the political circles who said, if they go after Trump, it's going to tear the country apart. What do you think they were trying to do? Above the Supreme Court, it says equal justice under law. I don't care if Republicans are going to be pissed. I don't care if conservatives are going to be pissed. If If a federal judge has said that Donald Trump broke 2 criminal statutes, you, me, Reese, and Greg would be indicted by now. And so I don't get the thing. And the thing with Donald Trump, if you don't go after him and you do not hold him criminally liable, don't think for a second he won't go further. Remember when Senator Susan Collins says, I think he's learned his lesson and this is going to get him to respond appropriately. What happened? January 6th.
Yeah, so Roland, the last presidential election was a dry run. So 2024 is live and popping. And folks like you and people on this panel are warning Democrats. Listen, we go back and talk about what happened, the tragedy of obviously of Benghazi, but the number of hearings they had after that and the hours that Hillary Clinton had to come before Congress and testify. Now, this is the issue of all issues. This was an insurrection. And Reese talked about Congressman Thompson, and I had a chance to work in his office when I worked on the Hill. He's a wonderful, he's like statesman. He's certainly doing a good job. However, they have to take a more aggressive stance on issues like this, because listen, things could change in a couple months, and if this is the Republicans, they would be coming full throttle. They would have anyone who refused to testify. They would have DOJ coming after them, and they would be using any other means they could to make sure you testify, and if you didn't, that you were in jail and you stayed there. In fact, they would make sure you were under the jail. So it is really important for Democrats to be as aggressive as possible. Listen, they tried to overthrow the government. And I want to go to something Reese talked about VP Pence, because I heard Congressman Thompson praise him. But listen, like Reese said, he did what he was supposed to do. So the fact that he didn't help Trump overthrow the government, you shouldn't be patting him on the back. Don't forget, he was his vice president. And like I said, all these conversations about, what was going to happen on January 6th, Mike Pence knew something was a foul. And so we shouldn't be patting him on the back. And so we need to do more in terms of, like I said, Democrats need to be doing more to make sure Jenny Thompson comes to testify. And if she doesn't, use whatever means necessary to make sure she goes in front of Congress publicly and talks about sending dozens of emails. And like you said, in terms of some other correspondence she's had. But listen, the bottom line is, if the time to do this is now, the clock is running, and Democrats got to step their game up.
Greg, it just seems as if there's this attitude of, well, you know what? Let's not go for the big fish. If we could just if we can satisfy this thing by kind of getting this person, then we'll be all good. Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, Eastman, and on and on and on. These people, as we speak, are putting individuals and having them run, and they're winning Republican nominations for secretaries of state. Right now in New Mexico, they are refusing to certify the results of the Democrat who won the primary. January 6th was not the end of the surrection. Mm-hmm. And so then we saw how this fool, this attorney, this environmental lawyer in the Department of Justice was like, sure, I'll happily come in, fire everybody, and then force these states to have new electors. I don't know how aggressive I can say this, but these people literally have no issue stealing all future elections, and they're going to say, we have the power to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's right, bro. And they never have. See, this is the thing we have to understand. This criminal enterprise called United States of America was always an iffy proposition. It has never, since the founding of this thing in 1787, which included the Northwest Ordinance, which was a compromise in terms of extending slavery, it has never been more likely than not that it was going to stay together. The Compromise of 1820, the Compromise of 1850, 50. Please understand that, because where you are right now in Texas, which called itself our own damn country in 1836, by 1850, the compromise over slavery allowed them to steal the rest of Mexico, North Mexico, in terms of New Mexico, Nevada, California. It was always brewing to the Civil War. Why? Because they didn't address the moral question at the beginning. They poured into the foundation. Now, what does that have to do with what we're seeing with this commission? This congressional commission is indicting everyone who broke the law for the Attorney General of the United States, for Merrick Garland. They're taking away all his excuses. That's what they're doing. They don't have the power to indict, but what they're doing is laying the roadmap so that when the Department of Justice doesn't do it or does do it, it's going to be a political decision. Now, why is that important? This country is going to fracture. The corn-pawing white nationalist governor of Florida has already shown you that he don't give a damn. The governor down there where you are right now, Abbott, has shown that they don't give a damn. The United States of America has never been a union. It has been a compromise with the most racist, the most exclusivist, the most genocidal, murdering types, and Texas leads the country in that. And the concessions to them have been the only reason the thing stayed together. When we saw Michael Ludwig today, Judge Ludwig, who is a Federalist Society darling, talk about the fact that there's nothing in the 12th Amendment, there's nothing in the Electoral Count Act, Title III in the U.S. Code, that would allow you to do what they're doing. He's trying to tell y'all, if you want to have a country, you're going to have the rule of law. Jenny Thomas, I love you, Jenny. Why? Because I don't have any investment in a criminal enterprise that has been held together by sacrificing me, you, Reese, and Larry. So guess what, Jenny Jen? You and your little punk husband. Now, Congressman Jeffries tried to, blast y'all because he's a true patriot. He wants America to stay together. I don't give a damn, bruh. So guess what? Y'all gonna break it this time. You're really gonna break it this time. John Roberts knows you're gonna break it this time. Guess who else knows? Mike Pence. Mike Pence said, I'm not getting in that car. Why? When you heard Greg Jacobs today, the chief of staff, say, look, I got in the car. I looked around. Pence didn't get in the car. And he told his Secret Service lead man, Tim, I know you. I trust you, but you're not the one driving that car. Meaning what? Because Mike Pence understands, because he's one of them, to your point, Reese, that these people will stop at no lengths, including hanging his ass. When they come back to power, it's going to break. So those you scared, if they do that, it's going to break. You just delaying the inevitable. You better go read some damn American history. It always breaks, baby. It always breaks, and it's going to break again.
Indeed. Folks, got to go to a break. We come back. She formerly was the mayor of San Antonio. Now, Dr. Ivy Taylor is the president of Rusk College. We'll hear her talk about her vision for that university when we come back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Apple, of course, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to support our Bring the Funk fan club. Where every dollar you give goes to support this show. Checks and money orders can go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Love our new Alexa.
It's a Buick.
Yeah, Alexa.
Buick.
Alexa.
It's a Buick.
It's an Alexa. It's a Buick. It's an Alexa. Coach, that's a Buick. That's an Alexa.
The Buick Enclave with available Alexa built-in.
A powerful movement is rising across America.
From the Mississippi Delta to the Apache Stronghold.
From the homeless encampments of Washington State to the coal fields of Appalachia of West Virginia.
We are the 140 million poor and low-wealth people in this country, and we are building the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
On June 18th, ahead of this year's midterm elections, while the Congress is still in session, we will hold a mass poor people's and low-wage workers assembly and moral march on Washington to arrest the attention of the nation, to put a face and a voice on poverty and low wages in this country.
This is a watershed moment for justice and democracy in America. There are those who say that transformative change isn't possible, but history teaches us that it is precisely in times like these that people must build a broad and deep movement from the bottom up.
We must compel this nation to repent, to lament, and to see the realities that have been hidden for far too long.
On June 18th, we will come together to lift the voices of the poor and low-wage workers who know that change is not only possible, it is essential for our survival.
We will make the connections to show how systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, the denial of health care, the war economy, and the false moral narrative of religious nationalism and white supremacy are hurting us all. We will show the nation the faces of Americans who cannot afford to go back to normal.
We will detail the policies that can move us toward a society that works for everyone. And we will pledge to go home and build power for transformative change in this year's election and for years to come.
Because the question should have never been, how much will it cost to address poverty? The real question is, how much is it costing us not to?
Somebody's been hurting our people. It's gone on far too long.
And we won't be silent or unseen anymore.
Join us in D.C. on June 18th.
Build with us for a third reconstruction in America. Visit poorpeoplescampaign.org.
How about sushi?
I just had sushi for lunch yesterday.
How about tacos?
Automatic emergency braking, one of 6 advanced safety features standard on every 2022 Chevy Equinox. Find new technology. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
Hi, I'm Anthony Brown from Anthony Brown and Group Therapy.
Hi, I'm BB Winans.
Hey, I'm Dontae Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, the last 3 days I was in Atlanta for the UNCF's Unite conference, their summit focusing on black higher education. While there, I got a chance to talk to a number of HBCU presidents, and one of them is someone who spent some time as the mayor of San Antonio, Texas, Dr. Ivy Taylor. She is now the president of Rusk College. Here is our conversation. All right, let's talk about this here.
Yes.
How do you go from being mayor of a city to HBCU president?
Well, you get a doctorate first. So I did that when I left City Hall. I went and got a doctor of education, but really being mayor is great training for being a college president. The jobs are very similar. A college is kind of like a small town, city, community. You've got different constituencies who have different ideas on what the priority should be, but you as the leader have to bring them together around the vision for moving forward.
So how did it happen? Because that's not a normal or traditional route.
Well, when I was mayor, through the UNCF, I connected with the president at Houston-Tillotson because there was a fundraising event where mayors hosted to raise money in their communities. And so I got on the board at Houston-Tillotson originally. And that's where I kind of became interested in using my leadership skills to advance, an HBCU, be part of preserving these amazing institutions. And so when I left City Hall, I lost an election and I didn't have a plan B, but I just didn't know what the plan was. The Lord knew what the plan was. So I went and got that doctorate, and then the position at Rusk opened up, and I've been president of Rusk College since June 1st, 2020.
So when we talk about that move, why Rusk? Because it's not like you had an affiliation with the university before. You didn't go there,
right?
And so how did that transpire? How long was it? And what was the courtship like, if you will?
Well, I was very focused, as I mentioned, on HBCUs. You know, when I did the program, my research was all about HBCUs. My dissertation was on HBCUs. So I knew I was going to be looking for the right opportunity in that space. And right around the time I was finishing up, the position at Rusk became available through the retirement of our previous president. And when I started doing my research, I found that the institution was very similar to Houston-Tillotson, where I had served as a board member. So that made me feel more comfortable in that space.
So you're talking about a university that's 154 years old. It is private, smaller. You're now but you also are in a state where you have a number of other HBCUs, but you're also dealing with one of the poorest states.
Yes.
And so, how have you been examining the university and looking at the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to be able to build it, to allow it to continue flourishing, let's say, for another 154 years?
Well, I think first thing was when I arrived on the ground, I had the eye of an urban planner. You know, it's my background. And I said, oh, this school is in the Memphis metropolitan area. We're 35 miles from Memphis. So that provides a great opportunity for those who may be a little bit scared off by Mississippi or rural Mississippi. We're actually in North Mississippi. So we're at least 2 hours from every other HBCU that's in Mississippi. So we have our own geographic space.
So you're 35 miles, so essentially, I mean, from a distance standpoint, you're essentially like Prairie View to Houston.
Yes, 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 very much so. And then we also have the state flagship in our backyard. University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, is about 30 minutes away from Rusk College, and we've been starting to initiate some partnerships with them. We signed an MOU for a 3+2 engineering program, so students can attend Rusk for 3 years and study math, and then be automatically admitted to Ole Miss for an engineering degree for 2 years. So I think, again, our geography creates wonderful opportunities for us. Of course, that connection to the Midwest from the Great Migration. We always get a lot of students from Chicago, even St. Louis. And on my first day, I met a young lady from Milwaukee. I said, you're here in Mississippi from Milwaukee? But yes, that is the connection that's, you know, a result of kind of our history.
Size of your student body?
We're under 500 right now. The pandemic, we've taken a hit. You know, it's been a
What was the highest has ever been at?
It's been about 1,100.
Really?
Yes.
How long ago was that?
I think that was about 12 to 15 years ago. And so we definitely are headed back in that direction. That's what I would love for the school to be, about 1,200 students. We'll always be small, but that's part of our strength. It gives students the opportunity to know each other and to know their faculty members and the administration.
So when you got there, you talked about your past as an urban planner. So you got there, in terms of needs, what did you immediately assess in terms of the university? Was it infrastructure? Was it faculty, staff? Was it, I mean, what was it in terms of as you begin to assess the entire university?
As far as the areas of opportunity for us, embracing technology, which I think some of our schools have been a little bit slower to adopt or adapt. And of course, the pandemic kind of pushed that along, so we wanted to fully embrace technology. Wanted to create some new majors. We're a liberal arts institution, but that doesn't mean we can't still critically look at what are the needs in the space in which, you know, we live. As far as
you say liberal arts, what are your dominant majors?
Biology is our biggest major. Mass communications. Those are kind of our biggest programs.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. We have our own TV station, our own radio station. Why don't you come down there sometime and talk to some of our students and inspire them?
I've been on, I think I've now been on 65 campuses, never been invited to Rusk.
All right, all right. Consider yourself invited.
I've done 18 commencements, 14 HBCUs. And so, yeah, Rusk is one that I've never been to. And I have a rule on my show. I only wear gear on my show of HBCUs that I've been to.
Okay, we're going to make it happen. Just tell me who your scheduler is.
That's the only way.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. Yes, so mass communications, and I think that creates a tremendous opportunity.
So you said your own TV station and radio station?
Yes, 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 we do.
And what, and serving the local community?
Yes, yes, serving the local community.
Now, are those broadcasting stations? What type of stations are there?
Well, the radio station, we have a partnership with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, so we get that grant to support, the surrounding area. And then the TV station is just a small independent station, so if you're on the local cable package, you'll turn it on and see Rusk TV.
What kind of programming is on it?
Well, we have programs where students provide information about what's happening on the campus, and also where I interview some of the folks in the community and on the campus. And actually, I'd love for us to create a lot more original content.
Is it a 24-hour channel?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. No, I had no idea.
Yes, it is. We'll have to send you some clips. So I think that's a great opportunity for expansion. You've been in this business. Now is the time where we need more Black voices at the table to shape the narrative about public policy and about things that affect us. So I think we can do that through our mass communications program. We've always been strong in the sciences, but now we're looking at, okay, so how can we kind of adapt to things that are going on in the marketplace? Of course, Memphis is kind of a medical hub, and so we created a health sciences degree. Our board also just recently approved a degree in global supply chain management. So, FedEx is there, and there's a lot of logistical companies there. So we want to respond to the needs of the marketplace and prepare our students for the jobs that will be available when they graduate.
What do you say is your greatest need?
Greatest need, we always need money in general, scholarship money, money to refurbish our facilities. The facilities in general, many of them need a little TLC, but we also have a very unique opportunity at Rusk that's just waiting for the right philanthropic partner. Did you know that Holly Springs used to be home to 2 HBCUs? Rusk College and Mississippi Industrial College. Rusk was founded in 1866. Mississippi Industrial College was founded in 1905 and closed in 1982. Its campus still remains. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, Mississippi Landmark, and Rusk purchased it in 2008. And I am trying to bring it back to life, including creating an Ida B. Wells Social Justice and Interpretive Center in a building there that was named after Booker T. Washington. Now, if you know your history, there's a little bit of irony there, but I think that definitely points us in the direction of the kind of conversations we as a people need to be having about how we move forward.
All right. Well, look, that sounds great. Certainly good luck, and look forward to visiting the campus and speaking there. So.
All right. Okay. All right. Sounds great.
Dr. Taylor, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
What's interesting here, Greg, when you look at her past in terms of now being a president, I talked to some other presidents, some who did not come from the world of academia, and what we are seeing some institutions looking at the skill set, the management skill set that individuals bring to the table to become presidents, as opposed to only getting someone who has spent their entire life in the academia world.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it's somebody who spent a lot of time on the Rusk College campus over the years. That's where Dr. Stovall used to have the African American Student Leadership Conference. In fact, Jeremiah Wright and I were together one time back in 2009, right after they bought Mississippi College, which is across the street. She said, I've been watching your coverage all week with great interest. I'm not sure what's going to happen at HBCUs. What I hear is a lot of aspirational kind of market-driven conversation, and of course that's very important. What I don't hear, however, is a lot of historical context. I saw the young brother who wrote the book on Black college presidents. I saw his talk. You broadcast that. My colleague Ivory Tolson was there talking. But there's very little grasp of the rhythms of how these kind of things have operated over the course of a century and a half. I don't get any of that. Dr. Thomas at Morehouse, for example, has received a lot of pushback from his faculty. It's very different when you talk to a college president than when you talk to the faculty. It's a very different conversation. And it's not that folk don't want to move in a forward direction, quite the opposite. It's that I think we have to understand that market-driven decisions are at the heart of the tension of HBCUs. Now, we can have a partnership with an Ole Miss for a Rusk College, but once you start if you move too far over in the direction of basically trying to be a conveyor belt for the job market, then you end up putting yourself in a position to basically be a farm team for these larger institutions. We certainly see that happening, I think, in terms of my sense of it, at Howard, at Spelman, and other places where, now it's kind of trendy, and some of these students who would have been at Stanford or Brown or University of Chicago or University of Florida or you name it, big public institutions, but now what they're saying is, well, I can go to the HBCU as an undergraduate as long as it gives me the conduit to the Yale Medical School or the Harvard Law School or the Cal Berkeley or Boalt Hall. And if that's where you want to go, fine. But I think what ends up happening at that point, you're not talking about developing leadership for Black communities, which has always been at the heart of the HBCU enterprise. What you're basically talking about is filling in some jobs and creating some entrepreneurs and basically burnishing the middle and upper classes among Black folk. I don't know exactly what that does for the rest of our community, though. I don't know. Jury's out for me.
Well, one of the things, Larry, in talking with the presidents down there, you also see the difference when you're talking to presidents that are located in rural parts of the country that are serving a lot of low-income students compared to what you might call the cream of the crop. When you begin to talk about Howard and Hampton and Spelman and the much larger institutions. And that's the thing that also when we're talking about HBCUs, we're not just talking about, public universities, we're talking about private universities as well. We just had, of course, there was a university in Illinois that was not an HBCU, but was a predominantly Black institution that recently shut down. And so, at the end of the day, one of the things that people have to do, to be perfectly honest, that students and parents have to do is choose a school that fits you. I remember sitting in, when I was when Texas A&M entered the journalism program, people were calling me, they were like, bro, we should save it. I was like, why? I said 2/3 of the people when I was there didn't want to go into journalism. I said, so why the hell have a journalism school? They gotten kicked out of other programs, other departments, other colleges, and basically they just wanted to get an A&M degree. So like, okay, fine, I'll be a journalism major. And so it's also choosing a school that fits you, your personality, your type, your income, but also what it is that you want to do in your life, as opposed to let's go to the happening place just because. And so it was an interesting dynamic in talking with these presidents.
Roland, you highlight some really important points, and I read about do some work on HBCUs. There are more than 100 HBCUs throughout the United States, urban, rural, suburban communities. What's also important is there are also 2-year community colleges that are HBCUs also, which a lot of people don't realize. So it's really interesting in terms of what Brother Carr was talking about. It is, I think that people would describe the racial reckoning. There are a lot of students who traditionally might have gone to PWIs who are now choosing historically Black college universities. And I'm going to mention a name that Dr. Carr and Roland and Reese are very familiar with. I'm thinking a lot about Ella Baker in terms of some of the work she did while she was a student at Shaw, and obviously work she did with SNCC, SCLC, et cetera, and NAACP, some of the other entities she was involved in. In terms of, I think, what Dr. Carr is talking about in terms of some of the students that HBCUs have traditionally developed, that students went there, and then it wasn't necessarily focused on, and look, there's nothing wrong with that in terms of conveyor belt into, corporate America, but was thinking about doing the work that made sure it had an impact in terms of getting people voted, in terms of voting rights, civil rights, et cetera. So I think that's a really important point. Also want to highlight something else. I'm an HBCU alum and very acutely aware of the challenges HBCUs encounter. I'm also chairman of the Cheney Foundation. So I'm also understand from that perspective in terms of some of the challenges our HBCUs encounter. But they are doing the work. But you're right, Roland, in terms of, depending on what your major is, depending where your locale is. Like I said, if you want to be in more urban in terms of Howard University or Spelman, or you want something more suburban rural, or you want something rural. And I think that's one of the great things about HBCUs. But I think when you get to the point Dr. Carr is talking about, a lot of HBCUs over the last, not a lot, quite a few have received the last 2 years, received substantial amount of money, more money they ever received in terms of donations. But our institutions still face a lot of challenges, not at the federal level, but at the state level in terms of making sure that states are giving whatever money they're getting from the federal government, that states are matching those funds. And we've seen those disparities for decades. We see it in Tennessee right now with Tennessee State. So we need to make sure in terms of going back, we talked about at the beginning of our conversation in terms of pressuring policymakers, but we also have to recognize, like you said, that HBCUs, depending if you want to be, like I said, maybe a journalism major, you want to do biology, you want to do chemistry, like we look at schools like Xavier, you have that opportunity to do that, or you can go to an even smaller school.
Risha, the point that Greg made in terms of the historical nature of the universities, when you do see these students with a growing interest in going there, I think it is important to establish that firm grounding. I mean, you can point yourself to the future. You can be more focused on technology. You can be more focused on upper mobility, but still be grounded and rooted in exactly what the historical purpose of the universities were for.
Yeah, listen, I didn't go to an HBCU. I went to UCLA and then Northeastern for my grad school. So I defer to Dr. Walker and Dr. Carr on the experience of HBCUs. And, you know, I really wouldn't know, to be honest with you, because I didn't have that experience. But I do recognize the importance of them in the Black community in terms of producing our doctors and our lawyers and our community leaders and our thought leaders, not just the students, but the professors and the faculty at these HBCUs. But, you know, my perspective, obviously, because I didn't go there, and I went to a white school, and I'm a financial manager by trade in terms of my profession outside of doing media. Is I think it's good to stay competitive. I think it's good. You're still in a competitive school marketplace. And so I was encouraged by her mentioning the industry leading majors that she's looking at. You know, I work in finance, so I understand the massive role that supply chain, global supply chain plays in many industries and many companies. And so I think that there is a balance that has to be struck between, you know, emphasizing community and emphasizing things that are not necessarily capitalistic or, you know, monetary or you know, the traditional 9-to-5 corporate pipeline. And for those that want to have that community experience, but also, you know, aspire to be a 9-to-5 person or an entrepreneur or whatever. So I think there's room for both, but that's all that I can really say about that without stepping out of my lane.
All right, folks, so tight 1 second. We come back, our Black and Missing of the day. In addition to that, we'll talk about what should we, as African Americans, be doing on this Juneteenth, now a federal holiday, and what about non-Black people? Can't wait to hear my panel have to say about that when we come back on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasted live here from Missouri City, Texas, where in just a moment I'm going to be giving the keynote speech to Missouri City's Juneteenth celebration here on the Black Star Network, which will also be live streaming and carrying live as well. So back in a moment.
Love our new Alexa.
It's a Buick.
Yeah, Alexa.
Buick.
Alexa.
It's a Buick.
It's an Alexa. It's a Buick. It's an Alexa. Coach, that's a Buick. That's an Alexa.
The Buick Enclave with available Alexa built-in.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, you'll hear from Elizabeth Davis. She left a flourishing career in the construction industry to build her own business using her same skill sets. And oh, by the way, now a multi-million-dollar business.
Every day I was looking at my numbers rather than looking at them weekly or monthly. When you're first starting your business, my recommendation is look at your numbers every day, because are they balancing out each day? If they're not balancing out for 3 days in a row, that means your week is going to be off.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
How about sushi?
I just had sushi for lunch yesterday.
How about tacos?
Automatic emergency braking, one of 6 advanced safety features standard on every 2022 Chevy Equinox. Find new technology. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
Hi, I'm Amber Stevens-West from The Carmichael Show.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, 12-year-old Zion Smith is missing from Capitol Heights, Maryland. He's 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighs 135 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He was last seen on June 13th wearing black sweatpants, a white tank top, and gray tennis shoes. Anyone with information about Zion Smith should call the Prince George's County, Maryland Police Department at 301-301-72. First of all, guys, y'all are missing a number on the graphic. So get the right number, please. You're missing a number. So let me just do, please let me know what the number is, okay? But please call the Prince George's County, Maryland Police Department with any information. All right, folks, Juneteenth, of course, Bill was signed into law last year, making this a federal holiday. I'm here in Missouri City, Texas, suburb of Houston. Of course, Texas has had Juneteenth as a state holiday since 1980, the longest observance officially of Juneteenth. Of course, Juneteenth was the day in 1865 when General Granger came aboard the shores of Galveston, Texas, to let the folks who are people of African descent, that they were actually free 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And so in Texas, this has always been a celebration. Juneteenth is the only federal acknowledgement, actually, of slavery. It's the only one. And so celebrations have always taken place. They've expanded across the country. States like North Carolina, Virginia, D.C., many other places have had Juneteenth celebrations. And it certainly has picked up since that federal designation. Tomorrow night in Los Angeles, the Hollywood Bowl, there's going to be a concert being curated by Questlove. I think CNN is going to be broadcasting that. Tonight in D.C., the Juneteenth committee there, they're having an awards show. Robert Smith, Maxwell, and others are some of the honorees. There are golf tournaments. There are other type of events. But the question we should be asking ourselves, what should we as African Americans be doing on Juneteenth? You look at Dr. King's birthday. Folks have tried to make that a day of service. And, of course, there have always been concerts and things along those lines. Here in Houston, there's going to be a great lineup. Sheila E., Frankie Beverly and Mays, Isley Brothers are going to be performing. It's a 2-day concert at Emancipation Park in Houston. But the question that we should be really addressing is, what do we do with Juneteenth? Should whites be celebrating? I saw a tweet from someone who said that if you are a white person who is an ally, you all should be also celebrating Juneteenth as well. So, Greg, I want you to kick this off for us to share your thoughts on what should be happening in black communities. What should we be saying to Americans? One of the things that I have been saying to people is that if you got some Juneteenth events, I want to see black businesses. I want to see black caterers. I want to see black musicians. I want to see black event planners. I want to see black economic empowerment taking place on Juneteenth. When I speak, I'm going to be talking about economic freedom that we still are trying to achieve in my speech. So your thoughts?
I agree, Roland. I mean, that's all you can do. From the first Juneteenth in 1866 down there in Galveston, and then spreading upward and outward in Texas, white people were always there. They were there because that's where black people were. And so Juneteenth for us has always been about self-determination. You know that better than anybody growing up in Texas, man. It was always about businesses. It was always about self-determination. And so, and again, thank you for the Black Star Network. You know, we've taped 2 consecutive black tables on the subject. We talked to Gerald Horne, our brother Gerald Horne, who just wrote a book, The Counter-Revolution of 1836, which is all about Texas, including Juneteenth, some very complicated stuff. And we were going to run that tomorrow, but we decided to lighten up a little bit. And so we actually tomorrow are running a special on all that red food y'all be eating down there with Dr. Sunyata Aman, who is a specialist on this subject. So the red soda, the red cream soda, the red strawberry cake, the watermelon, the barbecue sauce. But I'm saying all that to say that we produced all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? In other words, Juneteenth was and is never about outsourcing not only our celebration, but the things that we're celebrating, which is really self-determination. So yeah, the only other thing I would say is this time last year, as we talked about, I was down at the White House when President Biden signed the order, and I was standing there next to two security guards from Texas, ironically, a young sister and a brother. And as they were watching, I said, "What y'all think?" And the young lady said, "Well, I'm from Texas. This don't change nothing we was going to do anyway. I guess I'm glad to see other people doing it." And I think that's the attitude we should have. We should just go on and keep building. And I know that's what you're going to tell them tonight.
Reese, there were a lot of people after that was signed last year who were saying, "I don't know nobody who asked for Juneteenth." That was very much an insult to those of us in Texas. So first of all, but this is a perfect example, though, of how I need people. I need black folks who love to find criticism in anything to begin to understand that you look at this differently. Again, first and foremost, you can't yell, holler, and scream that you want legislation that specifically mentions us, but then you act as if Juneteenth is irrelevant. Now, does Juneteenth specifically deal with housing, with health? Does it specifically deal with your individual economics? No, it doesn't. But it is important for this country to have to annually acknowledge the reality of slavery in this country. That's first. But also, I believe that we have to force our people to begin to look at these celebrations differently than the way we are. We need people who are attending these events to be asking the questions, who's getting paid? See, we're responding, well, these companies are slapping Juneteenth on products. Okay, are they black companies? Or are these companies now trying to benefit, again, economically from something that is ours? And so I got no problem if black folks use Juneteenth as an example of, okay, we're going to ensure that if you're going to have Juneteenth events, you absolutely are spending that money with black people.
Well, yeah, first, to address your first point about people who said that, it's not a big deal. People will look at what the Asians got my ass to death about the COVID-19 hate crimes bill, but then they turn around and poo-poo Juneteenth. So it's like, y'all just want to be mad about something, and you never want to be happy about anything, even when you get what you asked for. So there is that. But as far as the money part, listen, I haven't seen anything Juneteenth for less than $200, $300, $400. They are taxing us with inflation. Ain't no free shit. Or maybe one or two little free things, maybe at the park, down the street, around the corner. But Lord, people are making some bank off of Juneteenth. So what I propose is that give black people some free ass shit for Juneteenth. If you're gonna have a concert on the mall, make it free for black people. We don't have reparations. This can be our reparations. So every Juneteenth, we ain't gotta pay to go see black people read poetry, dancing, you know what I'm saying? I ain't saying you got to give us free food and alcohol, child, because we can definitely eat you out of a house at home, but at least give us free admission to things. I think that's the least that people can do. That's my suggestion.
Well, look, I've actually heard that, and you being real nice, I think you talked about Pharrell's concert.
I'm talking about everything. I just looked up the event you talked about. That event was $200. I was like, damn, okay, well, I ain't going to that.
What event?
The honors
event is that?
Event.
The
Juneteenth.
the Juneteenth honors event at the Warner Theater in D.C. Gotcha. Again, I don't look that's the committee there, and again, I don't know what the money is being used for. That's one of those questions that we should also be asking, and we should be asking that, Larry. But all I'm saying is if we're going to approach MLK Day, if we're going to approach Black History Month, if we're going to approach Black Music Month, if we're going to approach these things, are we still connected, folks? Looks like I lost one of our feeds. Control room, talk to me. Okay, cool. Here. So I lost the video return. I lost video return for a second there. Larry, if we are going to, again, talk about MLK Day, Juneteenth, Black History Month, June is Black Music Month, or even Kwanzaa, we better make sure that black people are benefiting financially.
That's right, Roland. Let's make sure our folks getting paid. We saw that Walmart tried to capitalize on Juneteenth, and in the backlash, they had to pull back. So we got to make sure we put some money in some brothers and sisters' pockets. The other thing is obviously we celebrate Juneteenth and Father's Day, so I want to connect it to brothers for a second, because we, Black men and Black women and Black men deal with a lot of race-based stressors throughout our lives. So I want to talk about health as it relates to Juneteenth. I want to recommend the brothers out there, make sure they're eating right, make sure they're getting exercising, and in addition to that, just make sure they're taking care of themselves, because from day to day, we're dealing with a lot of racism in America. And so as we talk about Juneteenth and celebrating, we acknowledging this country's sins as we should, and Father's Day happening, I want to, like I said, shout out to brothers out there to make sure they're taking care of themselves.
All right, folks, that is it for us. I got to get inside. Let me thank Larry, Reese, and Greg. Thank you so very much for joining us today. Tomorrow I'm going to be in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the University of Michigan, for their Juneteenth commemoration, and I'll be speaking there as well. And so we'll be live streaming my speech here in Missouri City, Texas. So we'll look forward to that. And so thank all of you for joining us. YouTube, y'all should be hitting the like button fast and furious, okay? And so between now and me closing this out, we should be hitting 1,000 likes, all right? So y'all need to pick it up. Why are we sitting on 742? Y'all know better than that. And so, folks, again, a lot of things that we got going on. So again, tomorrow, I'll be broadcasting from Michigan at the speaker at the University of Michigan. And then I'll be catching a flight to D.C. for the Poor People's Campaign. Their March on the Nation's Mall on Saturday at 10 a.m. We'll be broadcasting from there as well. I'll be anchoring our coverage, so look forward to that. So it still is extremely busy time for us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Trust me, your dollars make it possible. First and foremost, we want you to download the Black Star Network app. That's on every platform: Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Please do that. The second thing, please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans on an annual basis to contribute $50 each. We don't make it mandatory. We don't charge you a subscription fee. Some people have given more, some have given less. We appreciate every dollar. But again, if we hit that goal, folks, trust me, it allows us to be able to hire staff, be able to travel to cover stories all across the country. So if you want to send a check money order, please do so to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. And Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. That is it. Let me see where we at now. I told y'all. So YouTube, y'all should be getting this thing going as we are closing this thing out. Y'all make me have to ask every time. There we go. We finally hit 1,000. That's it. All right, folks. I certainly appreciate all of you tuning and watching in today. We got more to get to tomorrow. And you heard Greg talk about Gerald Horne's breakdown of Juneteenth when I interviewed him. And we're going to play that tomorrow as well, because he said something I had not even known: the number of black troops that were with General Granger when he showed up on the shores of Galveston, Texas, to deliver that news in 1865. And so until I see you tomorrow, folks, y'all have an absolute great one, and I will see you then. Holla!